Congressman Jim Jordan wants answers now for the people of Portland, Oregon, from the federal government. He writes in a new letter to Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, quote, anarchists and violent left-wing extremists continue to vandalize and destroy federal property in Portland. The Biden administration has a duty to ensure that federal law is enforced. This comes after Antifa protesters and some counter-protesters stormed the state's capital of Salem Sunday. It resulted in violence that led to at least 4 people being arrested. Let's bring in Jasonrantz, KTTH Seattle radio talk show host. Jason, you're the perfect guest on this. So essentially what Jim Jordan is saying here in this letter, he's calling it, first of all, the protest. He's calling it riot apparatus. It's well-funded, it's well-organized, and he's demanding to know from DHS what their plan is to protect federal property. It's legit, right?
100%, and kudos to a congressman from Ohio for pointing out the problems in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, someone should ask the question, why aren't the senators from Oregon taking notice? Why are Wyden and Merkley not doing anything? Why is Governor Kate Brown not asking for any kind of an assistance? And my fear is that Congressman Jordan is going to be ignored. The Biden administration is likely going to treat this the same way that the Democrats have treated this issue for the last 10, 11 months, which is to either completely ignore it, downplay it, or in some cases just justify it. But the congressman is right. They have a duty to protect the federal property, and they have a duty to protect people who are living in the Pacific Northwest, whether it's Portland and Salem or Seattle and Tacoma, to protect folks from this kind of violence. And they are just sitting out this particular fight.
So you make a lot of sense there. I want to draw your attention to this other story we're following, which is a foster family that's got 4 kids is now reportedly being kicked out of their home in Washington state. A nonprofit group that owns the property says they want to make room for unaccompanied migrant children. Now, one Washington state congressman who's a fellow foster parent and also was a foster child herself says, quote, why on earth are they allowing this to happen to our most vulnerable youth? It's wrong. Is it wrong?
It's 100% wrong. And Michelle Caldier, who you're referencing there, a state representative, she is 100% correct. I spoke to her on my radio show in the last week or so. Friends of Youth is the name of this organization. It's a private, nonprofit social services group that just kicked out a family of 4, and not just a foster family holding on to 4 teenagers, which in the foster care system, teens are very difficult to care for. They have special training, these 2 parents. 2 of them. One of them ended up going to the hospital, one of these kids, because of panic attacks over this, and the other one ran away. And as of Monday night, that other teenager, we don't know where he is yet. And so it's possible that he becomes yet another homeless foster child. This is a huge problem. We have a major, major foster care crisis in Washington state and really all across the country. We don't have enough homes right now as it is to take care of people in Washington state, and to just callously and soullessly kick them out of their home to take care of migrants at the border. People seem to think, including that state representative, that this is all about chasing the dollars, that they're going to get more reimbursements coming from the federal government. Friends of Youth say that that's not the case. I'm not sure I believe that. But look, even in California, you have at any given time like 30,000 foster kids in the system. And there's conversations now about putting some of the kids at the border in foster care homes in place of potentially kids
Jason,
who are actually Californians.
To that point, listen to this foster family out in the state of California who says they've been asked to take in over 20 migrant children in their house alone. Take a listen.
There's 30,000 children in Los Angeles County alone that are in the foster system, and 60,000 that are in California that are in the system as well. And now you have 30,000 children at the border, and they're going to add that to the number. So you have 30,000 in Los Angeles alone, and you're going to add an additional 30,000. It's shocking.
And these are the folks, Jason, that are being asked to shoulder this burden. It's not the Fed. It's not DHS or HHS. It's these American parents.
And not just that, because obviously 99.9% of the foster parents out there are saints, and they're doing God's work, and they're taking care of these kids in difficult circumstances, not just because of the trauma these kids have faced, but because they're not getting reimbursed effectively to take care of them. But when you throw in a whole bunch of extra kids, especially with a language barrier, into these homes, you're also taking attention away from the foster care kids you're already taking care of. You have rules that you're not supposed, I believe it's 6 kids per home. You can't have more than that. Well, now I guess they're throwing those rules away because of the challenge at the border. It is absolutely absurd. There's no doubt that kids at the border need help. But the entire country right now is focused on that. You've got kids within these states who are American citizens who desperately need help. We shouldn't be turning our backs on them.
Jason, before I let you go, I want to ask you one final question, which is, do you see a solution anywhere in the near future to this particular crisis, the foster family care? We got about 10 seconds left.
No, not at this point, because they're not even acknowledging that as a problem. You have to acknowledge the crisis before you come up with solutions.
Yeah, good point. All right, Jasonrantz in Seattle, thanks so much. We always enjoy talking to you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Shelley.
You bet.